This is the First World War's most extreme battlefield. In 1915, these mountains in northern Italy became the newest front line in the global conflict. Italy joined Britain, France and Russia and sent her armies north to attack Germany's key ally, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Rather than pushing swiftly north into Austria, the offensive stalled here. For 600 miles from Switzerland to the Adriatic, the two sides became locked in stalemate, clinging to these rocky ledges burrowed into glaciers, fighting the weather as well as the enemy. For the next 3 years, this was a scene of impossible hardship. Today, it's one of the world's most popular ski resorts. The mountains ring to the sound of sport rather than warfare. The high ridges where once men huddled from snipers or high explosives are now viewpoints. War had never been fought at this altitude before. We're up at 3,500 metres above sea level. This was the site of ferocious fighting during World War I. It has to be one of the most forlorn and actually pointless battlefields I've ever visited. In the winter of 1915-1916, temperatures plummeted to as low as -50. You can imagine the troops up here desperately huddling in there against the cold, their primitive woolen clothing. Sometimes, of course, they wouldn't be able to light a fire because enemy artillery spotters would see it and they'd bring down enemy fire on themselves. It must have been the most unimaginably awful posting. The mountains ensured that any gains were measured in metres. The front line snaked across this terrain in front of me now through these extraordinary jagged peaks, valleys and ravines. The far mountains, there's the Col de Lana. Now, the Italians managed to capture that mountain. It cost them 6,000 men killed. With so few advances or retreats, both sides dug extensive shelters to protect them from the enemy and the weather. Many remain today. Its altitude makes it one of the world's best places to see the remains of the First World War. This was an Italian artillery position. A tunnel was burrowed through the ridge so a field gun could fire through an opening on the far side. These are the rotting remains of racks to store the shells. All of it had to be hauled to these heights by an army of porters and primitive cable cars. The effort expended for so little benefit defies belief. Some locations were so difficult to get to that mountain dogs were used to transport supplies and ammunition. The men living up here often had more in common with their enemy than their own leadership. The mountain community spoke their own language, Ladin, and frequently found themselves conscripted to fight against cousins and friends from neighbouring valleys. Tales of the war are fresh in the minds of the local mountain communities. I met up with Diego, a guide who heard stories from his grandparents as a child.
This mountain is Cinque Torri. Yes, it's a very nice mountain. The number is a 5 tower, but if you look from Cortina, you will see only exactly 5 towers. Okay. We have Lagazzuoi, we have Tofana. Tofana is a very high mountain in the Dolomites. On the top from Lagazzuoi was Austrian people, and the Italian people stay here on Cinque Torri.
So this was an Italian position?
This was an Italian position. And the Italian people from here they walk to Lagazzuoi, they buy inside one tunnel and they sprung at the top.
Wow, they blew it up with a mine.
Yes, but for nothing.
And can you still see any Italian positions around
here? Yes,
here?
We can see here in the snow is a lot of Italian positions. We can walk and we can look for, we have all the Italian positions now here too.
Okay,
it's possible.
Let's go and have a look. Lead on, sir. The fearless guide. Is this one of the huts?
This is one of the huts.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
can't believe how much snow there. Wow. Woohoo! So what I can see here is the fascia below the roofline. This is the ridge of the roofline there, and then down there are the walls, and I can just see the top of the door. I mean, I'm crouched. I must be on 4 or 5 meters of snow here, and there's a lot more above my head. It just shows how extreme conditions were up in these mountains. Diego showed off his climbing skills. His forebears would scale slopes like this as they edged closer to enemy positions.
In Wheatstone, the Italian people, they climb the left corner and they coming to the top, but on the top were a lot of Austrian people.
Yeah.
And they kill it.
And also, if you take one mountain peak, there's another one beyond.
Yes.
You can't achieve a breakthrough.
No, no.
We think of it today as a holiday place, but this was actually a theatre of
but
tragedy.
For 100 years it was a tragedy, yes.
The war came to an end in 1918, but not because of what happened in these mountains. The troops stationed here had bled and froze for nothing. Breakthrough would come elsewhere. Nearly 2 million Italians were killed or wounded in the war, proportionately worse than the figures for Britain. Until the very end, there had been even less movement in these mountains than on the Western Front. The war here was awful, and above all, it was futile.